This creature can change color in a fraction of a second, disappear right in front of your eyes, and it doesn't have one brain but something closer to 9. And the strangest part is, we still don't fully understand how it thinks. This is the octopus. At first glance, it just looks like another sea animal. Soft body, 8 arms, unusual appearance. But the more scientists study it, the more questions appear, because an octopus is not just another creature in the ocean, it's something completely different. It doesn't really fit into any category we're used to. It's not like fish, not like mammals, and not even like most marine life. Honestly, it feels like it doesn't follow the same rules. Let's start with something basic. An octopus has no bones at all. Its entire body is soft, flexible, and can compress into incredibly small spaces. If its beak, which is the only hard part of its body, can fit through an opening, the entire animal can pass through it. In other words, this is a creature that can almost flow through gaps, and that alone already sounds unusual. Now let's talk about blood. Humans have red blood because of iron, but an octopus has blue blood because it uses copper instead. This helps it survive in cold, low-oxygen environments deep in the ocean, but it also makes it more sensitive to warmer temperatures. That means its survival is closely tied to its environment in a way that's very different from ours. Then there's the heart, or rather, hearts. An octopus has 3 of them. One pumps blood through the body, while the other 2 are dedicated to the gills. And here's something interesting. When an octopus swims, its system becomes less efficient, so it actually prefers to crawl along the ocean floor using its arms instead of swimming whenever possible. Even the way it moves feels different. But the most unusual part is its nervous system. When people say an octopus has 9 brains, it sounds like an exaggeration, but there's some truth to it. It has one central brain, but a large portion of its neurons are located in its arms. Each arm can act almost independently, meaning they don't just follow commands, they can explore, react, and make decisions on their own. Imagine your hands being able to move, examine objects, and decide what to do without constant input from your brain. For an octopus, that's normal. Its arms can sense texture, shape, and even taste through touch. It doesn't just see the world, it experiences it through its entire body at the same time. And this leads to a bigger question. If its body works so differently, does it think differently too? Humans have a centralized brain that controls everything, but an octopus has a distributed system, where decisions can happen in multiple places at once. That suggests its perception of reality could be completely different from ours. And that's exactly why scientists still struggle to fully understand it. We're looking at a creature with no bones, 3 hearts, a distributed nervous system, and the ability to interact with the world in a highly complex way. And this is just the beginning, because in the next part, things get even more interesting. We'll look at just how intelligent an octopus really is and what it's actually capable of. If the first thing that makes an octopus unusual is its body, then the second, and possibly the most surprising, is its intelligence. And this is where things become even more fascinating, because an octopus is not just smart in a simple sense, it seems to think in a completely different way. Scientists have been studying octopus intelligence for years, and many experiments have produced results that almost don't feel real. For example, octopuses have been given tasks like opening containers to get food. In many cases, they figure it out surprisingly quickly. They can twist lids, open mechanisms, and solve problems they've never seen before. But what's even more important is that they remember how to do it and can repeat the solution later. That's not instinct, that's learning. Some octopuses have even been observed playing, not for survival, not for food, but simply out of curiosity. This is extremely rare in the animal world and is often associated with higher intelligence. There are also observations that octopuses can recognize individual humans. In lab settings, they react differently to people who feed them compared to those who don't, which suggests they can distinguish and remember individuals. What makes all of this even stranger is how their brain is structured. As mentioned earlier, a large portion of their neurons are located in their arms, meaning their intelligence is spread throughout their body. It's not just a central command system, it's more like a network. This leads to behavior that can look almost chaotic, with arms moving, exploring, and reacting semi-independently, while the central brain coordinates rather than directly controls everything. This is why octopus movement looks so fluid and unpredictable at the same time. It's not just motion, it's constant decision-making happening across multiple parts of the body simultaneously. And the more we study it, the more it seems that octopus intelligence might be fundamentally different from that of vertebrates. But intelligence isn't just about solving problems, it's also about adaptation. And in this area, octopuses are incredibly flexible. They can quickly change their behavior depending on the situation. If one approach doesn't work, they try another. If the environment changes, they adjust. This level of adaptability is one of the key signs of advanced cognition. And this connects directly to one of their most impressive abilities: camouflage. Octopus camouflage is not just an automatic reaction, it's an active process. The octopus needs to analyze its surroundings and then adjust its body to match them as closely as possible. It can change not only its color, but also the texture of its skin. It can go from smooth to rough, mimicking rocks, coral, or sand. And it can do this in a fraction of a second. To us, it looks like it disappears, but in reality, it's performing a complex transformation based on visual input. Some species take this even further and can imitate other animals, including venomous ones, to scare off predators. This isn't just camouflage, it's deception. It's not just about blending in, it's about acting. And this raises another question. If a creature can learn, remember, adapt, recognize individuals, and even perform, can we consider it intelligent in a deeper sense? And if we can, how similar is that intelligence to ours? The challenge is that we tend to measure intelligence using human standards. But an octopus evolved along a completely different path. Its brain, body, and sensory system developed independently from ours. So its intelligence might not be a simpler version of human intelligence, but something entirely different. And that's exactly what makes it so important to study. Because by understanding octopuses, we might begin to understand how many different forms intelligence can take. But despite all these abilities, there's one aspect of an octopus that stands in sharp contrast to everything we've talked about so far. Its lifespan. Short, unusual, and in many ways, deeply tragic. And in the final part, we'll look at why a creature this complex lives such a brief life, and what happens to it at the end. Perhaps the most unusual, and at the same time, the most tragic aspect of an octopus is its life. Because despite its complexity, intelligence, and abilities, it lives for a very short time. Most octopuses only live 1 to 2 years. And that creates a strange contradiction. A creature that seems so advanced simply doesn't have enough time. But what's even more unusual is how its life ends. After reproduction, a process begins inside the octopus that ultimately leads to its death. For males, this happens relatively quickly after mating. But for females, the process is much more extreme and, honestly, quite disturbing. The female lays eggs and begins to guard them. From that moment, her entire behavior changes. She stops eating, barely moves, and spends all her time protecting the eggs, cleaning them, and making sure they receive enough oxygen. This can last for weeks or even months. And during this time, she is slowly dying. Her body weakens, her energy fades, but she continues to guard the eggs until the very end. By the time the young hatch, she is so exhausted that she dies shortly after. This is not an accident, and it's not caused by external factors. It's part of her biology. Scientists have discovered that after reproduction, certain processes in the octopus's body essentially begin to shut it down. This leads to loss of appetite, tissue degradation, and eventually death. In other words, it's programmed into its life cycle. And this creates a powerful contrast. We are looking at one of the most unusual and possibly intelligent creatures in the ocean, yet its life is incredibly short and ends in such a dramatic way. But even beyond that, everything about the octopus feels different. 3 hearts, blue blood, a body with no bones, the ability to change color and texture, and a nervous system spread throughout its arms. When you put all of this together, you get something that doesn't fit into our usual understanding of animals. That's why octopuses are often called aliens of the ocean. Not just as a metaphor, but because their biology, behavior, and intelligence are so unlike anything we're familiar with. And maybe the most interesting part is not what we know about them, but what we still don't understand. We know they are intelligent. We see that they can learn, adapt, remember, and interact with their environment in complex ways. But we don't know how they experience the world. We don't know what it feels like to be an octopus, or whether they have something like consciousness. And that changes how you look at them. Because the ocean is not just a place full of fish and coral, it's a completely different world, where life can evolve in ways that are very different from us. And the octopus is one of the clearest examples of that. So next time you see an octopus, remember, you're not just looking at a strange sea creature, you're looking at something that might understand the world in a way we can't even imagine. And while you're watching it, it might be observing you just as closely.